Okay guys, earlier you saw me clean the Sega Dreamcast controller, but what good is the controller if you don't also have the visual memory unit, or the VMU? And as you can see here, this is not exactly looking very pretty. It's, really bad. It does work though, so yay, there's that. But obviously, I am going to fix this because potentially one of you might win the Sega Dreamcast, if that's the console that you want. But regardless of the outcome, I do put these things out for sale. So, this is going to end up with someone, and I am not in good conscience going to send it away looking like this. So let's take it apart, and just like with the controller, you only need a like a detailed screwdriver. So this is just a Phillips screwdriver. So we're gonna go right into that. Now the first thing you want to do is flip it over, and you see the battery cover here, and there's 4 more screws around the perimeter. So let's take the battery out first. And then these are just 2 standard 2032 batteries, just stacked on top of each other. And then we'll take the battery cover and just throw in some hot soapy water that I prepared earlier. And now we'll go into this and open it up. So again, we're just going to use the same precision screwdriver and just take out the corner screws here. And sometimes they get gunked up, so it's good to have the tweezers just to kind of get some extra pull on them. There we go. There we go. Now, one thing that needs to be said before we actually take this apart is, if you can see right here where the speaker is, there's some cords going up to that speaker. The speaker is attached to the back plate, and the electrical cords is connected to the front, to the screen there. So what we need to do is, we have to lift this up, but we have to be very careful because these parts will be attached at this point. So we'll just gently lift that straight up. Or maybe not so gentle in this case, since it's gunked down there. There we go. So we loosen it up a little. And then we'll just flip that over to the side here, and you can see how that's connected. Let me get a little better view here. So you can see how the cord is connected to the board itself. So these things are not going to be coming apart anytime soon. So let's put that to the side for now, and we're going to take the board itself out. And just to show you here, it's got 2 screws where the battery compartment are. So one here, one there. We're going to take both of those out. Okay. And again, it helps to have tweezers handy. There we go. And then we can just lift that straight up. Now, we do not want to throw this in the water because any kind of moisture at all, you're going to have the battery sitting right on top of this, giving it electricity, and electricity and water do not mix. So we want to make sure that these pieces are completely dry, so we're not going to touch them at all. There we go. And then again, this just lifts straight up. And just to show you here, there's two sets of screws. So you've got the smaller screw. Let's put it this way. So the smaller screw, that's the one that's holding the battery compartment together, basically, like the different polarities. The longer screws, those are the screws that is actually holding the case together. So it's not exactly the most difficult one. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to lift up the board and just be a little gentle with that, because it is still attached and you don't want to sever these cords here, because then you'll have to solder it back on. So we'll just move that over to the side there. We're not going to disentangle those cords because, you know, in this tutorial I want to show you how you can do it without using soldering and so on. So I don't want to break these unless I have to. And you know, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, I'd rather not make a tutorial that, you know, shows you how to do something that you might not have the equipment to do. So we're going to leave that as it is. And then, Jesus, look at this. That is just terrible. Wow. Yeah, this is why I clean consoles. But anyways, let's take the button covers off here. You'll also notice this little piece here that is falling into my hand here. That's a little, take it with a tweezer. It's basically just a little like handlebar that sits right here, but I'll go into detail on that later on when we're putting it back together again. You can throw this in the water, just be very careful since it is clear plastic. It basically looks invisible when you put it in the water. So don't forget that that thing exists, because that's what's kind of holding everything aligned in there. So anyways, we'll just take the button cover, lift that up. And I like to use the tweezers because it has little raised edges that sit inside of two pockets on the side here. So just trying to pull it straight up might be a little difficult, but you know, it's rubber. You're not going to really hurt it that much. So also the thing that just fell out is, just like with the Dreamcast controller, it has a little knob there that sits in the middle. So if that falls out, make sure that you keep it. So we're going to put that over by the screws because, again, I don't want to lose it. So we'll throw the button cover in there, and then the actual directional pad. Jesus Christ. Look at that. Look at it. There we go. Jeez, that's massive. So yeah, let's see if we can get that in a little focus here. So that's what years and years and years of sweat and dust looks like. So yeah, let's throw that in the water. And then the front piece here, same thing, we're just going to throw that in the water as well and get rid of all of that crap. Now that leaves us with the back cover and the board itself. So we'll just inspect the board, and yeah, the screen looks terrible, so we're going to have to clean that up. And you can also see here there's crap on the ports that connects to the controller. And then of course you can see here there's a ton of dust here. So we're going to be cleaning this, but we're going to be cleaning this only using isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip. So Okay, so I've cleaned around the perimeter and the plastic casing right here, which leaves the screen itself. Now, for a screen, you could use something like a Windex bottle or something like that. But the problem is that the screen is attached to the board itself. So Windex on electronics, not the best, because unlike isopropyl alcohol, Windex does not evaporate. So we're just going to clean this with more isopropyl alcohol, which tend to cause some streakage. I'll show you what I mean. So as I'm going over here, there we go. So as I'm going over here, I can get a pretty decent job cleaning it. The problem is that it kind of smears it back on again. So you just have to take multiple passes with the isopropyl alcohol compared to like Windex. So we're just gonna keep going over this until the screen is clean as well. And you can see how dirty that screen was. So we'll make a few passes over here. And then we'll just use the clean end to wipe off any excess moisture and to get the last dirt particles out of there. So there we go. And then just a touch up here. Spots there I missed, it seems. Some of these cracks here are very impossible to get into properly, so do the best we can. It'll be 1,000 times better than what it was. So I think that's enough for that part. So we'll put that to the side and then go over to the actual plastic bin and wash those items out. Now, I just noticed, as I was laying everything out here, that there's still some gunk left in the corners here, because a Q-tip is really hard for the Q-tip to get in there. So this is a completely new toothbrush. Basically, I just buy a bunch of really cheap toothbrushes, and the one that I use over there is of course full of all kinds of gunk. So I don't want to use this where it's attached to electronics. So I'm just gonna take this toothbrush and just go over those corners. There's no liquid or anything. I don't use any cleaning products. This is just a clean brush. It's actually never been used before this, but all I'm doing is I'm just going over those like corners and gaps and crevices and just loosening up that dirt as good as I can. There we go. Now, since basically there's a lot of dust in there, I'm going to take my air duster and just blow that out. So, there we go. Got to locate it. There we go. So that should now be a lot better. Let's see here. Yeah. So that's cleaned up nicely. So now we'll put everything back together again, and we'll start with the front piece here. So let's just move a little here. There we go. So we'll take this and we'll just have a Q-tip ready just for any kind of moisture that may have evaded the blow dryer. So that looks good. And if you remember this guy, it was looking really bad before, and it cleaned up super nicely. So we'll just take the excess moisture out. Like that. And just like with the controllers, you have little cutouts here that correspond to some pins right here that's going to hold that in place. So we'll put that in there, and then we'll take the button cover and just slide that in there as well. And now we have this little gadget, and this can be a little tricky. So just to show you here, there's a tiny little pin right there. And let's see if we can show you that as well. But you can see that there's like a little, almost like a little raised line going this way. And that's very important, because if we take this, you can see where the peg goes, but you might be able to just barely make it out. You can see here, it has a tiny little cutout groove right there, and check out my nice fingernails. But basically you can see that that groove has been cut out, so it's going to go on a peg, and then that line's going to go into that tiny little groove there. And again, tweezers, super helpful. So we'll just grab that and put it down. And the way it should be aligned is that the feet are now pointing up, and also towards the screen itself. So we're then going to take this and see, let's align it so it'll be this way here, and just try to put that in as straight as possible. Maybe, no. So it hit on the actual arm up here. So let's align that. Because you can see here, the problem is that this arm actually swings around a little bit, and it needs to be in the exact perfect position for this to work. So let's try that again. Nope. Got it. There we go. And I also noticed that right here there's a little bit of gunk that wasn't taken out properly. We'll just use our clean brush here. So there you go. Just a little touch up here on the side. The VMU is so small and so finicky, it's kind of hard to get everything. But now that we've got that in place, we can put in the rest of the battery compartment. So again, just be very careful with these cords, don't break them. And I'm a moron, because I forgot this little pin here, so I'll have to take it back out again. Oh joy. There we go. And then let's put this pin in. So this tiny little thing here, just push that in, just like that. Push it back in again. Like so. And then we'll do the whole process once more and hope for the best. Got it. Okay. Now we can put in the battery compartment. So we'll start with this little thing here. And it's also very helpful on the board itself. You can see that there's a long rectangular piece here and a tiny little square piece right there, the kind of different color. So of course the smaller is going to go on the smaller side. And we'll screw that in place. And again, this is using the shorter screws. There we go. And then the longer rectangular piece is going to go on the long side here. That, and we'll flip this over. Just be sure that you're not pinching the cord. Like you can see here, I'm on top of the capacitor, so I don't want to be there. So I'm just going to take that and just try to maneuver it somewhere else, like maybe down there. So just move it a little bit with my thumb here to kind of get it away from that capacitor, and that is looking good. So we're going to put that down here, and then of course screw in the last 4 screws. There we go. And put the batteries in, and the batteries are beveled, but the flat piece is going to be up, which is the positive side. So just push both of them down with the positive side up, and it should make a sound, which it does, which is good. And then take the button cover and just put that in there and screw that in place. And then since that's now been reset, it'll ask you to put in the new date. So we're going to do that. So 2018, select, and it's February, and it's the 16th. No, 16th. And the time is so 12, and just hold it in. And 25, there we go. Okay, yes. There you go. So now this is set up for, whoever gets this later on. You have a functional visual memory unit. So again, thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe. And if you subscribe between now and March 1st, you are eligible to win a console of your choosing. I'll put a link in the actual video that describes the giveaway down below. And as always, hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.